Thank you, Paul. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to first start out by thanking our friends at Red Cloud for inviting us and for hosting this wonderful event. I will be making some forward-looking statements. I encourage you to familiarize yourself with them. Let me first of all just start out by asking the logical question, why Vista Gold? You know, Vista Gold is a company that's been around for a long time, formed in 1983, first as Grandis, then as 1996 merged with the Copper Resources, became Vista Gold. We've been an operator, we've been a portfolio manager, and we've been advancing the Mount Todd project in Australia for a number of years. And we have some very distinct opportunities, I think, for shareholders. First of all, that we have a very attractive value with strong correlation to the gold price. We currently trade, and I'll show you some slides here in a moment, we trade at an enterprise value per ounce of $11, undervalued compared to our peers. I think there's a tremendous opportunity there, and I hope that by the end of the presentation you'll understand that a little bit better. We enjoy significant leverage to the price of gold, and you'll see in a moment a chart that shows the correlation between them. We have a very high correlation of 0.79. We have a large project. Mount Todd is 5.85 million ounces of proven probable reserves in a great jurisdiction. We just 2 weeks ago announced the results of an updated preliminary feasibility study. That study highlighted a significantly improved recovery that we reported at the project, improved costs. Our project has lowest quartile costs among the Australian gold producers, and improved overall economics. We've been working on this project for a number of years, and one of the things that we enjoy is all of the environmental permits for the project are approved. Our EIS was approved in 2014, our Environmental Protection Biodiversity Conservation Authorization was approved in 2018, and we expect by year's end or the first quarter of next year to have our mine operating permit approved as well. The updated preliminary feasibility study reported an IRR of 23.4%, and life of mine average production of 413,000 ounces per year with a cash cost of $645 an ounce. Talked about Australia being a great jurisdiction. We've been there a long time. We like it. One of the things that's great about our project is that it's a brownfield site, and as a result, we have a significant amount of infrastructure that's already in place. Paved roads, power lines, natural gas pipeline, tailings and pump facility, freshwater storage reservoir. All of that, if we had to replace it today, has a value of about $130 million. And then there's the exploration potential. So what's our strategy? Our strategy is simply this. We're going to continue to de-risk Mount Todd. I mentioned the fact that we're working on the operating permit. The whole idea is to put this in a position where it's ready to be advanced and moved into development with a strategic partner. We're communicating the options that we have to maximize shareholder value and helping people understand that this is not the project that they remember, and that we are not going to go out and develop this ourselves. Third, we're engaging in discussions with potential strategic development partners to advance this project. Again, we're not going to do this ourselves. So, how do we stack up? Simply, this is a chart provided by Red Cloud. You see that our enterprise value per ounce over on the right in yellow is $11 per ounce compared to an average of about 36. We're on the lower end of this. This is hard for me to understand. It's what the market says today, and we're working to change that, and I hope that by the end of the presentation that you understand why we think that it can change. We talk about leverage to gold price. This is one of two slides that I'm going to draw your attention to in that regard. November 13th of last year, gold started an upward move that it very distinctly broke out of the horizontal trend that it was in. Since that point in time, the price of gold is up roughly 27%. Our peers, the GDX, as represented by the GDXJ and the XAU, are up about 50%, or about 2 times improvement over the price of gold. Vista is up about 90%, or about 3.7 times the improvement in the price of gold. I think that sets us apart from our peers, and part of it is the advanced stage of the project, the size of the project, and where it's at. Talking a little bit about results, and we're going to hit this in two different places in the presentation. Just kind of a high level summary. First 5 years production is estimated to be just under 500,000 ounces per year, with an all-in sustaining cost of $688 an ounce. When we talk about the size of the project compared to our Australian peers, this is the Australian universe of gold producers. This is and what you see looking at this is that from right to left, the Mount Todd project that is nearly 500,000 ounces per year production over the first 5 years has the capacity to be the 5th largest gold producer in Australia. Second, looking at it from top to bottom, the all-in sustaining costs, and these are in Australian dollars. You see that Mount Todd is easily in the lowest quartile cost producers. Now, some people turn around and ask me, Brett, how is that possible? Well, I think there's 3 reasons. One is that this is, first of all, it's not a fly-in, fly-out project. Many of our Australian peers, especially these guys over here and the Tanami project and Boddington, have camps. They fly people from all over the country. They have 4 crews in order to make that work. And there's a tremendous cost. Mining costs, just alone, mining costs are 15% higher if you have a fly-in, fly-out operation. As you'll see in just a moment, our project is located about 30 minutes north of Catherine, and is very accessible. Catherine is a regional commerce center, home to about 14,000 people. We worked very hard with the local community to develop this and plan this as a community-based project. Second, it's a large project. We get to take advantage of economies of scale. Many of our peers in this part of the chart are either low tonnage open pit mines or they're underground mines, and there's certain cost advantages that we enjoy being a large operation. Third, being a new operation, we get to take advantage of technology that's been demonstrated and proven over the last decade. When we look at the landscape, Acadia and Boddington were both commissioned 9-10 years ago. They implemented the best technology they could at the time. It was HPGR crushers, and everybody had doubts about the technology when they did it. Today, we all embrace HPGR crushers. We're going to use them at Mount Todd. But the advantage is that we get to use things, and we've incorporated ore sorting. It allows us to reduce the amount of material that goes to the mill by 10%, saving us costs in milling or grinding, leaching, and also tailings handling. Our management team, be happy to talk about them. Doug Tobler and Pam Sully, who's here with me today, have just joined the company in the last 6 months. We're a team that has extensive experience in the mining industry, both in building mines and taking mines that weren't operating as they ought to and getting them running as they should. Our share structure, we have 100 million shares issued and outstanding. It's a small number compared to many of our peers. We don't go to the market very often. We raised money in 2012. Again, in 2016, we have $6.3 million in the bank. Our working capital includes another $3.3 million. That's roughly the value of some Midas shares that we own, a company that we helped form in 2011. Our largest shareholder is Sun Valley Gold, a company, a fund that's been with us since 2008 and has been increasing their position over the last 3 or 4 years. And we have coverage from 4 different analysts. So, promise you a view of what the project looks like. You'll see down in the lower right that we're located in the Northern Territory of Australia, what the Australians call the top end. We're about 250 kilometers south-southeast of Darwin. Access to the site is by paved roads the whole way, 30 minutes north of Catherine. Here's Catherine, there's the project area. This is what the project looked like. It was operated in the early part of the 1990s as a heap leach operation. There's 13 million tons of crushed and stacked ore that still has 0.54 grams per ton in it. We'll run that through the mill at the end of the life. We have the plant site, the Batman pit, tailings impoundment facility, and the freshwater storage reservoir. This slide also helps me explain the exploration potential that we that we enjoy at Mount Todd. We drilled 50,000 meters, but nearly all of that has been drilled right here. This is what allowed us to take and increase the resources from 3.3 million ounces to almost 10 million ounces. We're on the, here at the Batman deposit, we're at the southwest end of a structural trend. And we see that. Here's the Gulf and Tullis pits that were mined briefly. There's some work that needs to be done there. We've not drilled anything there, but yet we know that they mined it at the surface. We report a resource at Quigley's. This is on the structure. This requires a bit more drilling and metallurgical work to be able to include it as reserves. And then we've got the first part of about 50 kilometers of strike length, about half of it in the Batman Driffield structure, and the other portion of it in the Cullis Australis structure, which is a little bit farther to the north. But between these two structures, we have about 50 kilometers of strike length that we know has gold in it, and it's simply a matter of we haven't drilled it yet. One geologist commented that if this 1,100 square kilometers of land was in Western Australia, it would look like Swiss cheese. And the fact that it doesn't says that we've been spending our time and our resources elsewhere. What that focus has been is developing a project, getting a project to the point that it's nearly completely at feasibility study engineering, and that's focused on the Batman deposit. We've got some advanced targets. As I mentioned, Quigley's is inside the boundaries of the mining license. Wandy, we drilled a few holes here. This is an iron oxide copper gold occurrence. A little different than the rest of the geology, the rest of the targets in the district. We drilled to 250 meters. We worked with some consultants out of Tennant Creek who understand the style of mineralization a little bit better. Their counsel is that we need to drill deeper. And that will come in the future. Also, we put a few holes in Goldeneye. This is a style of mineralization very similar to Mount Todd. Any geologist would tell you in the room that it's unreasonable to expect you're going to make a discovery in 7 holes. So we've got some work to do, but we think that we've got considerable potential. Just to kind of give you an idea of how things changed, we published the results of an updated preliminary feasibility study in January of 2018. Since that point in time, we've continued onward with a lot of detailed metallurgical test work, specifically looking at fine grinding. That's allowed us to make some changes in our fine grinding circuit, which has resulted in an improvement in recovery from 86.4% to now 91.9%. Just going down the list here, we changed the gold price. We now use $13.50 gold price instead of $1,300. The foreign exchange rate has changed. We use 70 cents today at 67.5. The recovery has obviously changed. That's resulted in some changes up and down the board. Maybe I can summarize it best just looking at the waterfall chart. 2018, we had an NPV of the project of $679 million. Adding $50 to the gold price added about $100 of NPV. Changing the foreign exchange rate added another $150 million roughly. Changes in recovery added over $200 million in NPV. Now, one of the things that we did as part of this study is we just didn't change the recovery and do a lot of met work. We also undertook a benchmarking study. We conducted an in-house study to look at capital cost overruns in our industry over the last decade. And as a result of that work, we went back and took a very scrutinous look at our Capex, specifically in the area of our owner's costs. We changed the construction schedule. We extended it from 18 months, which everybody felt was achievable but aggressive, to 24 months, which we all think is achievable and realistic. We changed our ramp-up and commissioning schedule. We added money in for owner's costs, for EPCM costs. We revised our contingency factors, line item by line item, looking at where we might have been a bit optimistic. We've added working capital, and as a result, well, it had a negative impact on the NPV of the project. But I think that it's a realistic view. I'm afraid that optimism creeps into all of these studies. And what we've done in this study is to try and weed that optimism out, to get this back to the point that as we sit down and talk to potential partners, that we're not faced with the questions of, do you really think you can do this? I do think we can achieve this. Now, grinding to a smaller size comes with some costs. greater surface area, more line consumption, cyanide consumption goes up a little bit, power goes up. All those things are negative. We have some other factors that are positives. Now, that gets us to the $823 million NPV. If we look at today's gold price, $1,500, exchange rate of 68.5 cents, that NPV is $1.15 billion. And the IRR is just over 30%. So certainly we enjoy the leverage to gold price, and there's some distinct benefits to us that way. Chart here, it's in the presentations that have been handed out. I'm not going to dwell on it. It's just lets you look at your own parameters. If you like a different foreign exchange rate, if you like a different gold price, you'll be able to very quickly come to a conclusion as to what you think the NPV and the IRR of the project should be in your specific scenario. Let me talk for a moment about some of the comparables. And this is we asked a third party to pick a dozen projects that were similar to ours, size of the company, in some cases grade, state of advancement. Just to kind of put this in comparison, on life of mine average production, we're at the top end of it. When we look at Capex per ounce, and I'm not talking about the Capex. The Capex that we estimate for the project is $826 million. It's a big number. We get it. Part of the reason that we've said we're not going to develop this ourselves. We're not going to go out and raise the debt to dilute our shareholders to do that. But given the fact that it is a large number, this is a large project. 50,000 tons per day production capacity, and having the capacity to produce almost 500,000 ounces of gold per year, that comes with costs. But the costs are very reasonable on a per ounce basis, or on a per ton per day capacity throughput. We elected to show the Capex per ounce of gold produced, and there you see that we're middle of the pack, and so people get lost in what the number is instead of realizing that it takes money to build big projects, and we've done a pretty good job of managing that. We're certainly benefited by the fact that the infrastructure at Mount Todd is already built, paid for by somebody else. Last of all, up in the upper right-hand corner, we used to, as an industry, we used to show these kind of graphics all the time 10 years ago. And I know why we don't talk about them today is because most people don't want to talk about it. But in the upper right, you see a chart that shows the reserves for each of the companies. New Gold and IAM Gold, the Blackwater and Cote projects are just in each case one project and a big portfolio, so it's a little bit more difficult to show the other statistic. We're not the largest project out there, but we're very sizable. At 5.85 million ounces of reserves, but the light blue lines, I'd like to draw your attention to those. This is the number of ounces of reserves in the ground at the project per share issued and outstanding. Orezone, Sabina, Midas, Vista, we all just got one project, and this speaks a lot to value, to leverage. You see on the far right that Orezone and Sabina have about 0.01 ounces of gold in the ground in reserves per share issued and outstanding. That's about $15 of value today. Midas is about 0.02, about $30. There's Vista, 0.057 ounces of gold in the ground per share. That's about $85 in value. When I talk about us being undervalued, this is part of the reason that I say that we're undervalued, but this is also part of the reason that we enjoy the leverage that we do. It's as the price of gold goes up, people who understand this realize that the project itself, that Vista is backed up by value in the ground, and it's just a matter of unlocking that and being able to demonstrate that. So, in the last few minutes that I've got, let me just leave you with a few key takeaways. First of all, I think that this is an exceptional asset, located in a great jurisdiction. We've done a lot of work to advance the project. Given the fact that it's a brownfields project, we enjoy great infrastructure. The environmental permits are in place. We hope to have the operating permit in hand in the next 4 to 6 months. We've got a great exploration package with 1,100 square kilometers of ground to work on. And we've got numerous targets that we've already identified. We've spent a lot of time de-risking this project through technical studies, through the metallurgical work that we've done. Our engineering is not at preliminary feasibility study levels. In 2012, we started out to complete a feasibility study, and in April of 2013, we curtailed it because the price of gold dropped. And the only thing we hadn't completed was the piping, electrical, and instrumentation designs. As a result, nearly all of our cost estimates are built from first principles. We have a high degree of confidence in the quality of our estimates, and because of that, I feel particularly comfortable saying that we have strong economics at the prices that we've used, and even more compelling economics at current gold prices. Now, we're focused on value recognition. We recognize that this capital is a big number. We're not going to go out and take this on by ourselves. Our focus is on creating value for our shareholders, not on diluting our shareholders and moving them from the front of the bus to the back of the bus. We believe that this study that we've just recently announced will provide the basis for us to engage or re-engage in some cases with potential strategic development partners who demonstrate an ability, technically, financially, to advance the project, who share our values with regards to the environment and social responsibility, and who recognize the value that we've created at Mount Todd and allow us to transfer that value onto our shareholders. Last of all, I just want to remind you of the leverage that we enjoy to gold. When the price of gold goes up, we move up, and we move up faster than most of our peers. And I think that I've explained the reasons why. Just speaking of leverage, this morning Eric Sprott said his projection for the gold price is $37.50. Mount Todd at $37.50 and an 80-cent foreign exchange rate will have an NPV of about $5.5 billion and an IRR of 96%. So if you follow along with Eric and you believe that that's where the gold price is headed, you need to own this gold. Thank you. I wish I had a neuralizer. I would just hold it up right now and wipe that memory away from you. There's nothing wrong with the deposit. Pegasus made the right decision to build a mill and selected the wrong equipment. The primary, secondary crushing circuits worked just fine. The vertical shaft impact crushers they selected for the third and fourth stages of crushing performed very poorly. They just kept adding more units, and ultimately when they shut down they had 19. They didn't get the throughput that they needed. They made the decision not to install a cyanide detox circuit, and so their flotation circuit ran for 6 weeks. The free cyanide coming in from the tailings impoundment facility, they were counting on solar degradation of the cyanide, which we all understand works in months and years, not days and weeks. And so the free cyanide coming in was suppressing the flotation of the sulfides. It ran 6 weeks. They shut it down when they started milling and leaching all of the ore. They have in the upper part of the deposit there was bornite and chalcocite, known to be cyanide consumers. The reagent consumption went up. Their gold recoveries went down. All of this in a period of time the gold price was falling, and that tipped Pegasus over. Now the fact of the matter is that Pegasus only drilled 100 meters. When we started drilling 200, 300, up to 800 meter holes, we realized very quickly that 40 meters below the bottom of their pit, there's a phase change. And the bornite chalcocite changes to chalcopyrite. And if Pegasus had survived another 9 months, they'd have mined their way out of this problem. The chalcopyrite doesn't react with cyanide. Now the ore body is hard, we all know that. Last time I checked, we're still called the hard rock mining industry. And it's really a matter of selecting equipment. We've taken the approach of next frame size up. Manufacturers, for example, our secondary crushers, we recommended XP 1100s. We said, thank you very much, we'll take the 1250s. We've adopted that philosophy throughout the design of Mount Todd. We've taken next size up on our equipment, or in those cases where that's not practical, for example, in the ore sorting, we've adopted an N+1 philosophy.
Thank you very much. Fred, let me just jump in. Everybody has this perception. I went to it. Sorry.
I went to visit Mount Todd, I think it was, 2010, 12? Yeah, something like that. This is Detour. It's the same rock type. They just had the wrong processes in place. And so once you understand that the work index is comparable to the Canadian Shield, and that These guys have done a tremendous amount of work on this. This project is going to get built. First project of 6 million ounces in the first world, and it's wide open. It's going to get built. It's just you got to do the prompt work that these guys have done.
Thank you.